Welcome to Direct Approach, a bi-weekly podcast hosted by Wayne Moorhead, delivering timely insights, fresh perspectives, and actionable takeaways from your direct selling executive peers to fuel your business's growth and evolution. What happens when a former skeptic dares to challenge everything we thought we knew about direct selling? And can a customer-first mindset really reshape an entire global business model? In this episode, Wayne sits down with Ørjan Sæle, co-founder of Zinzino, to explore how bold vision, legal advocacy, and relentless innovation turned doubt into a $200 million success story. Get ready for a conversation that challenges convention and champions the power of putting customers first. But before we begin, we'd like to thank this episode's sponsor, Exigo. Tired of struggling with outdated systems and inflated technical debt? Are you losing time and money on staff or software inefficiencies? Exigo can help. Our all-in-one platform as a service simplifies everything from commissions to reporting to e-commerce. With Exigo, you can finally focus on growing your business, not managing it. Don't let technical headaches hold you back. Visit exigo.com and discover how Exigo can transform your MLM company. Now let's welcome your host, Wayne Moorhead, and his guest, Ørjan Sæle.
Hello and welcome to another episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Moorhead. And today's guest began his direct selling career building one of the largest field organizations in Northern Europe to founding a thriving direct selling company with his wife that's generated $200 million last year. I'm excited to welcome Ørjan Sæle, co-founder of Zinzino. Ørjan, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, thank you for having me here.
As I mentioned before we started recording, I've really been looking forward to this conversation. I think you've taken such an interesting approach in positioning within direct selling. And so I'm excited to dig in on how all of that came to be. Before we get into Zinzino, can you share a little bit about the path that led you into direct selling?
Well, there isn't really a lot of path. I remember two critical moments. One was I was working at my dad's newspaper, actually, and a little bit in the archive. This was back when we had physical archives. And I was archiving pictures and also different notes of my dad. He was the editor-in-chief. And then I worked in the dark room, so actually developing pictures. So this back to when we had camera rolls, and it was a lot of fun. And then somebody pitched me at something where they said, copy these papers and send them out to people, and then everyone will send you $20 back or something like that. I don't remember the amounts anymore. And I was using the photocopier machine at my father's newspaper, making all of the envelopes ready and so on, and had no idea what it was. Then my father came over, looked at it, and said what I was doing. And I just explained it to him, and he said, that's a pyramid scheme. That's something that you don't participate in. And I had to make sure I had to shred them all up through the shredder and so on. That was gone. No $20 coming to me. And I was 16. So a year later, I get invited by my uncle in Sweden, which had moved to Sweden, that had invited my uncle, which was kind of my best friend, is 5 years older than me, to come to a meeting. And we went across the country, and I was sitting through a presentation of some nutritional products, and then they came on the board and they drew the circles, and it was one and then the next level, and there was like a board full of circles. And that's when I hit my uncle in the side and said, this must be one of those pyramid schemes that my father warned me about. It wasn't a pyramid scheme, but I was super skeptical. And 3 weeks later, after 280 some odd post-its on the wall, yellow post-its on the wall, I figured out that the Herbalife compensation plan wasn't only working, but it would be an excellent business. And that's how I joined network marketing.
That's such an interesting story. It's amazing how many of us have a similar story where we might come with some preconceived notions, but once we actually look under the hood and experience the heart and the spirit of direct selling and see the lives change and the incredible products, that we become true believers really quickly. One of the things about your story that I found so interesting was I heard you mention that it took you, that in the first couple of years of you joining you may have signed up either nobody or only a handful of
It
people.
it was nobody, and a couple of reasons for it. So one of them, so I joined like 17, just turning 18, going on 18, and I joined kind of with an idea to prove that it wouldn't work. So that's one of the reasons. But then the second reason is that my mother, she's been a full-time politician my whole life. She was at the parliament in Norway at the time. And then, as I said, my father was owner of a newspaper, still is, and he was the editor-in-chief. And he was the largest owner, not the majority, the largest owner today at that newspaper. Back then, he owned a little bit less, just to have the story correct. But 3 weeks after I joined, I got the front page of the big local newspaper. And it was my mom, me, and my father. And then this was blasted everywhere. And we got 3 full pages inside for me being in a pyramid scheme that promoted products that was not healthy. So that was kind of like my journey into it. Now, I knew it wasn't anything illegal. I knew that products was good. I knew that I could stand behind it. But maybe I was too young, or maybe I was too aggressive, or maybe I didn't get it right, or maybe I was scared, but I was never able to recruit anybody into the business, meaning that paid. I was able to recruit people that didn't pay, so they didn't come in with any products. So I ended up for the first 2 years of my career only selling products. That was what I made a little bit of money on. I must say I probably lost, I don't know how much, 15, 20, 30,000 euros, dollars in my first 4 years. Now, I didn't stay for a long time in Herbalife. It was about 2 years. Then I got recruited to another network. And in that one, I worked all through the summer, got my first real downline, made my first real commission check. Then my uplines kind of lost it. They kept joining new companies all the time. So they recruited me to a third company. I spent a lot of time there, got 17 people in my downline, 496 customers. And after a year and spending 3,000 hours, basically working more than full time, I had $69 a month. And then they joined another company, and then they joined another company. And I started saying no to joining other companies because it was like, you can't expect to build a large company in a few months. And I had to go from this philosophy that a lot of people had, that you just get in and then you sign up a few people and then they go and work, and that's how you're gonna just sit back and make money, which is not business. I mean, it didn't fit with any of the books that I read about regular business. So I got frustrated. So after this $69 check finally got my residual, I quit. I was done. I was out of the business. 4 years, no income, just expenses. It was very frustrating.
So I'm curious, what was the catalyst from going from, not enrolling that many people to building one of the largest organizations in all of Northern Europe?
I think belief is the difference. And there is a belief in the opportunity. There is a belief in the people. There is a belief in yourself. There is a timing aspect to it as well. Who is there? What do they tell you? How fast are other people moving? It's a belief in the products, in the compensation plan. So when my uncles then eventually found another company and they wouldn't stop calling me. So like on the 8th day, I gave up. I'd said no so many different ways by day 8. And by day 8, I said, okay, I'll make a deal. So now if you guys put me in first, before you guys join, because this was a brand new startup company, then you can join under me. And when you guys quit, I would never have to join you again, because then I can just keep on building. And they put me above them, and that's how we got started. And literally within the first 3 weeks, because I got so excited about the difference in this company versus everything else that I've been dealing with. The difference was that it was something new that we could bring to the market. It was something that just made me feel different. Now, looking back, I can say that, well, it wasn't really any difference. It was me that was different. And how it was that way was partially the people and partially that I misunderstood a lot of things. I didn't really know how it worked, but I had a lot of excitement. This time I came in to actually build a business, not for me to sponsor a couple of people and see if they would build it, but for me to build a business and do whatever I could to make them successful. So first 3 weeks of this company, we got around to putting in 200-300 people and had a $10,000 a month check, 21 years old. My uncles were making more than me, but we were going just crazy with the business. That was the difference.
That's an amazing story. Once that belief kicks in, and that understanding and that experience, that really can be the game changer, I think, for those building the businesses in direct selling. So you saw an opportunity when you created Zinzino to really do something differently, to take a little bit more of a customer first approach. Can you share a little bit more about what you saw and where the white space was?
Yeah, so we got to $10,000 a month. Then I got to like, how much could that have been? Like 30, 40,000 a month, something like a crazy amount of money when you were 22, 23 years old. And then the company got into a police investigation. My mom was at the Justice Department at that point in time in her political career as an elected official. So she was in the Committee of Justice or whatever they would call it back then. And she happened to just come across the case. She heard it from me, and then somebody asked her about it because they knew that she was using the products. And then she was asked to send them a note about it, and she sent them a note about it. No, this note happened to be on an official government paper because that was what was laying in front of her on her desk, which she used all the time. And because it got leaked to the press, I got my second turn for the media. So the next 3 weeks, myself, the company, my mom, people connected to us would be in every single newspaper. I'm talking about all the local press, all the national, everything, all the TV stations, everything. I don't know how many interviews I gave and so on. And that led me to be sitting in a lawyer's office for about 3 to 4 weeks, 23 years old, together with the owners of the company. I was just a field distributor, but to fight out the situation. And in the end, we came to an agreement with the people investigating that there was a few things that needed to be changed for the business model to be completely clean. So we fought through that. We had to do a reset of a week, shut down the business for a week, then we started again. And after that, I went on to build a humongous business. By the time I was 25, hitting €1 million a year, probably a lot more, but that's the official story. And putting in 50,000, 70,000, up to 99,000 people into the downline in the best year. And this was between Norway, Sweden, Denmark, and Finland. So the total population is 25 million people. So that's like living in what's an equivalent state in the US, living in Florida, and you recruit 99,000 people a year in Florida only. So that's the size of the business. We did over $100 million in sales. Did incredibly well. But here was what I noticed. And that was that we had 37,000 active people on auto order at the beginning of 1 year. Then we put in 99,000. And then at the end of that year, we only had 47,000. So we grew by 10,000. And that's when I went back to the owners of the company. So even though we were legal according to the law in my country at that point, I said, this is not good for the people. Because if I want to go to, let's say, 100,000 active, I got to start putting in like 500,000 people. I will run out of people. This is not working. And when you have gotten to the level where you've sponsored 4% of the population and you fly across your country all the time, when I would board an airplane, I would walk down that aisle and there would be people looking at me, and I didn't know, did they recommend me for the media? Did they just join the business? Or did they just quit the business? Because with 150 people on the airplane, if you have 4% of the population, you're going to have 6 people on that airplane that somehow know you for some reason or are connected to somebody that knows you. And I found that to be very uncomfortable to have that situation with a failure rate that was unacceptably high. So I then started a process twofold. One was with my company owners. Another one was with legal to actually make a law in Norway that would like stricten up how it actually was to run a network marketing company. So with the company owners, it didn't go that well because they kind of liked the model. It was easy for them, while we wanted a much more customer-centric model. Then through a series of events where we don't have time to cover everything today, so I'm going to make it very short, it ended up that by lobbying of the Direct Selling Association, myself and some other people that wanted a change of the law, managed to create a law in Norway, which was actually the first that recognized that a network marketing company would only be legal, meaning that it would only be network marketing if the majority of everything that brought commissions came from a customer that was buying a product that was not connected to the comp plan. So the internal consumption model had to go away. I was pushing for that number to be more than 90%. It ended up to saying that 51% would be the minimum. So if you were less than 51% customer driven by the commission paid out, you would be illegal. If you were more, you could be illegal. So it didn't say that you are legal. But I was pushing that towards being a lot higher, not for any other reason than that I really truly thought that that would be better for my people. So my field leaders, they would be better off if they had a large customer base and everyone would make enough money from their customer base to break even on their own consumption and their expenses of the business, and then build a downline with customer bases that would break even. That would bring us back to the original ideas of network marketing 50, 60, 70 years ago. And that model worked, and that's what I wanted. So we ended up getting that. And then in the middle of all of that, when we then broke up with our former owners and founded our own company, that became our mission, was to become a direct-to-consumer company with network marketing as the model.
That's fascinating that you worked on it, not just in the boardroom, but also in the halls of government from a regulatory standpoint to really impact and affect change. I think that's fascinating. So based on this customer-centric model, how do you approach your marketing, your messaging, your positioning differently than other direct selling companies might?
So we haven't looked that much into what whoever else is out there is doing. Okay, so I took a position where I truly believe that innovation is what you got to do if you want to build something big. And if you're innovating, whatever everyone else is doing isn't that interesting. Now, of course, you come across in conversations and so on, so you kind of know what they're doing. But for me, it's very simple that there is 2 parts. One is that you have the business model where you build a culture around customers. So what do you do? What do you profile? What do you recognize? What is popular in your culture? And if you come to one of our events, you will find that people will say something, well, what's your T number? What's your personal customer number? What's your T number? So we made a simple way to talk about it, that my personal customer numbers, instead of talking about sales, which people maybe are reluctant to share, I say I have 25 personal customer points. And then we would say, well, in my team, I've got 2,300 customer points, which is kind of like a comparison there. It doesn't tell the full story, but it tells how much you have as residual kind of volume coming in all the time. Then there is the lawmaking part of it. There, can you get your commissions without customers? And in our plan, you can't. Originally, when you join, there is a grace period. So we give you 120 days where you can buy a kit, get an out order, get customers, or join for free, get customers, you get active. So the pathway in, we don't need any of your money. In fact, if you buy a kit, we give you a full refund in 12 months if you just get a few customers. So we do not want money from partners, because partners are supposed to make money and customers are supposed to spend money. Then from month 4, you need to have 4 active customer points and then a certain volume. That volume you can partially buy yourself, and it can come from the customers, or everything comes from the customers. Then when you reach the rank where you make about $1,000 a month, you have to have 10 customer points, and to be at the $10,000 a month level, you need to have 25 customer points. And that's the lawmaking inside of our plan. There is no other way to do it. In addition to that, we built a full career plan, which is just based on personal customers as well.
That's interesting that in helping to build a culture, structuring the compensation in a specific way, but then really from a corporate messaging standpoint and kind of conditioning the field to talk about those customers, the depth of those customers, obviously has gone a long way into really making Zinzino such a successful and stable company.
And I know this is one of the reasons why our profession is in problems, because when then I eventually do meet leaders from other companies that are wanting to join Zinzino, or is pitched by some of our people to join Zinzino, what I repeatedly see is that they go, well, I can't get customers. I'm not used to working with customers. While at the corporate level of every company today, because of all the cases and all the shutdowns and so on, everyone is claiming to have a lot of customers, but there is a disconnect between what they say and what they actually do. So when somebody joins us, this is my biggest fight with them, is to truly teach the leaders to have customers. Maybe they have people at the bottom of the tree that have customers, but I don't believe in a culture where the newbies is doing something and then the leaders can't do what the newbies are doing.
Sure, absolutely. The structure of the compensation plan, and again, what you choose to highlight and reward, is going to directly inform the output of how they build and end up recruiting. And I've also read something really interesting that you've said around product. So obviously in customer-centric, product is at the foundation of that, having great products that deliver great value. And you've spoken about the importance of under-promising and over-delivering around the benefits. Can you share more on this? I think this is one of the biggest challenges and opportunities we have in the channel, but managing those expectations and setting those, I think, is one of the greatest opportunities that we have in the channel.
And this comes to the professionalism, obviously. If I go back to just a couple of the philosophies to explain the background. So when somebody signs up in a business, they're recruited into the business. We don't recruit people into the business to sell them products. That's not why they joined. They are recruited into the business so that they would sell products. So if we sell them products, the only reason why we sell them products is that we want them to be familiar with it and we want them to retail products. Otherwise, there is no purpose to it. That's why they can join for free, doesn't matter. Or if they join, they should make their money back from selling products if they choose to consume what they bought, when they get direct to company customers, we'll get them a refund on what they paid for their own products. So that's just a philosophy-wise that partners are there to make money. Now, and we call distributors for partners. Sorry for mixing that up in a generic interview.
I do it all the time.
Then on the customer side, if you flip over to the customer side, well, customers are there to spend money. They're there to buy products. They're not there to recruit or to join a business. I don't believe in giving them an opportunity to convert into becoming a partner. That's not why they came. They are happy the moment they got a product. So they paid for it, they got it delivered, they start using it. At that moment, they should be happy. Now, the more of a promise you give the customer to have them convert into a customer, the harder it is to keep them happy. So if you want to have like a customer come in and buy the product for the rest of their life, you should surprise them a lot in the first month, even more in the second month, even more in the third month. And by the fourth month, they should be fully in love because you delivered so much more than what you promised. Now, to be able to do that, you need to have a system for selling. There, everything is like in a way where you find the person's need, you custom your pitch to the need. You don't promise that it will help them solve the need, but you match it to their need and you promise the follow-up and you hope that it's going to give them a result. Now, with what we do specifically, we do an upfront test. We do a blood assessment. So I know if you need the product or not. So when I get the answer to the test, if you're one of those that doesn't need it, I'll call you up and say, hey, we'll give you a full refund. You'll ship the money, the products back. We don't need your business. You're one of those that are eating so healthy that we don't need you as a customer. And we do refund 3% of everyone we sell to. So it's a quite large number that we do give a full refund to. In America, though, it's 0.5%. So it's a very low number in America, but there is pockets around the world which are still very healthy. Now, after we then have done the test, they start taking it. If I've told them too many promises, they will easily be disappointed and they will expect to get results in the short term. How long time does it take to develop a habit? Some say 21 days. I do believe when it comes to consumption of food that if you start taking something every day and it goes 3, 4, 5 months, that's when you really become addicted to the food that you're taking or the supplement that you're taking. So the longer we can keep them in. So we talk about the progression of result over time that they will have with the products. And then we have a system where we test them again after 4 months. New blood sample, send it into the lab, and then I know that you got the result or I adjust your dosage. So the promise that we give people is that they'll get a before and after test result each time. Then what results they will get in their body, we want them to report back to us. So tell me about what happens, because that's when it becomes powerful. Because if a customer then is feeling fast recovery after exercise and they tell me about it, no, they're inclined to also tell their other friends about it. If they're in their 50s and they've done sports before, nearly everyone is struggling with their knees when they do the different sports, and then they come back and they say, hey, I can play like I'm young again. Especially in Europe where everyone plays soccer, everyone has knee problems. And if you play basketball in the US, you got that same thing, the knees are just not sitting right. And no, my knees are working. And so instead of like promising them, take this and you'll be able to do sports full out again, you talk about, well, if you get over that issue that you have, please report it back to me. Because then I can get them to then give referrals, which is a true customer business. Your happy customers gives you more customers all the time. And that's in every area of whatever problem they do have.
No, absolutely. And having that happy customer and delivering on your promises and expectations also can lead to having that level of trust already, if they choose to then kind of transition or convert into being more of the brand partner or distributor, they've already had that great experience. You've already delivered. And so you've established that trust. I'm curious on the testing. What is the turnaround time to receive the results back from I guess from either, but more on the initial? And is there any drop off from, when the buying temperature is really high and someone signs up, to waiting to have those initial results for a baseline?
There is always, when you work with sales, a certain dropout. I'd say that from those that only buy one time from us, it's probably about 15 to 20%. Okay. Why did they only buy one time? Probably because the salesperson did a bad job. I don't think it has anything to do with the turnaround time of the test. That's about 3 weeks globally, a little bit faster in Europe. People are okay to wait. If they're told it'll take 3 to 4 weeks and they have it back in 17 days, under promised, over deliver, they're happy. If you tell them it's going to be back in a week and it takes 8 days, they're going to be unhappy. So whatever message you give them is what they respond to. So customers are very easy in that sense. Now, from the ones that then get their test back and start taking our product, we have literally 0 dropout before month 6.
That's amazing.
Before they get to the next testing, and when I say literally 0, maybe there is another 15% dropout in those 6 months. And then it depends a little bit on which kind of customers you get. So if I get a customer that have never done nutrition before in their life, of course I'm going to have a higher dropout. They're used to going to McDonald's, and here I'm trying to convert them into being healthy. That is a difficult thing. If I get a nutritional customer, so they've used to taking different other products, I've got a lot less dropout. If I get somebody that has taken a competing product to us before, I keep them for years and years and years and years, because we deliver 10x better result to those customers, because they know which level that they want to have on their blood test. And then they see what we deliver compared to the product they're already taking. And that's a 10x scenario. And those stay for a very long time. So with all the ones that come in with our testing protocol, we keep them on average for more than 18 months.
That's amazing. What an incredible validation and retention tool to have as part of your system. So you also are you and your wife are in a very unique position where you have both corporate roles and field role. And I'm curious how you've been able to balance this. And is this kind of a lead by example approach? What are your thoughts around that?
Well, we really only have a field role, so we don't have any corporate management position. We're not in the board. So me and my wife stepped out of the board 2005, just after we founded the company, and realized that we got to have one hat. The hat we have on is that we're a field leader. Now, there is the General Assembly. So once a year, obviously, we do have another role. And then there is the role of being the co-founders of the company, which you represent partially as a field leader and co-founder. Now, we never pull rank with anybody in the corporate organization. They are actually above us. They make the decision, and we don't try to have them make another decision than what's our rules and regulations. Now, working with this for 20 years, I don't think we've had a conflict for a very long time. I can remember a couple of instances about 15 years ago where this was difficult. But we're very good at managing being field leaders with a founder or a co-founder positioning of it. Now, the other thing that you got to know about our company is that we're listed at the NASDAQ, so we're a publicly traded company. That is, of course, a whole different level of transparency than in a privately held company. So our numbers was released today for the sales month of April. So 58% growth in April is released to the market. If it was minus 58, it would be released to the market. Luckily this time, it was plus 58%. That's much easier to deal with both for the field and for the market, obviously. But if you look at the 20 largest owners in Zinzino, 16 of those work in the field, and 15 of those are in the leadership council, meaning that they're between the highest field leaders that we have. So this is a company owned by the field. So that's also why our kind of dual hat works a lot better, because it's not only we that are owner, it's all of the people on the leadership council have ownership in the company. And I was at an event in Stockholm, Sweden on Friday. We had about 700 people in the room. And I said, how many have bought any shares in the company? 80% of the hands went up in the air, which is incredible. So they are my bosses as much as I'm their bosses. And then I went to Germany on Saturday and had about 1,500 people in the room. And in Germany, it's a little bit harder to trade our shares. We're a little bit younger in that market because it's Swedish and the listing is in Sweden. They're more familiar with it. But still, about 25 to 30% of the German distributors own shares in the company. And I think after the event, multiple hundreds or more will own shares in the company. And we actively want our field to be partners with us. We believe that for them to be a part of the public journey is as important as for them customer career to get free products, or just building a little customer base to make some extra money, or to go full-time, make a career in the field.
Yeah, and what an incredible and positive result that must have on the culture, where the field and so many people actually are owners, that they're not just literally invested in the long-term success of the company.
The applaud of a crossline being successful is louder when you're a shareholder in the company, because you're making money on their success.
I love that. What an incredible approach from a culture standpoint.
Are you ready to revolutionize the way your direct selling company accesses industry insights? Introducing the DSN Library's Smart Search, an AI-powered tool that puts over 2,000 curated assets at your fingertips. From compensation trends to emerging markets, answers are just a click away. If you're already a DSN supporter, then you have access to Smart Search right now. If not, it's time to check out our updated program for 2025. Starting at just $1,000 per month, your entire company can get access to the channel's most comprehensive collection of education and insights available. Visit directsellingnews.com/supporter to see a demo of Smart Search in action and to learn how your company can become a supporter now. We also invite you to join us for DSU Europe, June 3rd to 5th in Amsterdam. This is where Europe's top direct selling leaders will gather to explore the latest insights, strengthen industry connections, and discover new growth opportunities. Plus, save the date for the Fall DSU happening September 6th through 8th in Plano, Texas. Visit dsnevents.com today for details.
So one of the other interesting things I've heard you talk about is having such a customer-centric approach that over the years you've gotten some criticism from, people outside of the company, that it is so customer-centric. But yet, again, because you're public, we know you did, about 200 million in sales last year. So can you share a little bit of what that's like to be able to point to the success, but also continue to receive some level of criticism?
So because we're public, the nice part is that the 200 million is so in our past with 58% growth.
Yeah.
To way over 300 million for this year. Maybe we'll
incredible. Congratulations.
So we're very excited about that. I think that at any point where you want to do an innovation at any level, you're going to get criticism. The criticism we've received for bringing out test-based nutrition, the most logical thing on earth, has been much bigger than the criticism we're getting for bringing out customers. So I look at things like this. If no one is criticizing you, you're not innovating. So I love the criticism. The louder they scream against what I'm doing, the more do I know that I'm onto something. I'm not always right, but I'm in a direction of right. which is different from being right. So you still got to innovate on the innovation, but you're trending towards right. So at one point, the criticism goes a little bit more quiet and they become questioning. So they go from critics to questioning. And then after the questioning, they go to copying. And that's what I love the most. So the more people that copy you, the more you know, okay, no, finally, I really got it right. So I look at copying as a driver of momentum for the innovator. If you think about the big brands out there and you look at like an Apple brand, which is probably one of the most interesting stories out there, and that's why we could talk about it again and again and again. But think about it, if no one would copy Steve Jobs with his smartphone, it wouldn't have gone that fast. It was because everyone was going, first they criticized him, they said it would be a complete failure. Then they questioned like the whole premise of the phone and like a screen and everything going on. And then everyone moved to copying as fast as possible. And that lifted Apple to most valuable brand in the world. So is there a lot of companies copying Zinzino so far? No, but it's trending that way. Just wait for it. Give it another year, give it 2 years. You'll see nearly everyone in network marketing bringing out test-based products. Now, what I love about that is because our profession lacks credibility and nutrition lacks credibility. If nutrition had credibility, then everyone would be taking a nutritional supplement. But because it lacks credibility, you're taking a nutritional supplement, but then you're not feeling the result. And then you go to the doctor and then you take a drug. And when you take the drug, you become so loyal that it's crazy. You have 16 different side effects, but you're so loyal to that pill every single day. And then you go and get 3 more pills to overcome the 16 side effects, getting 2 more side effects to add a 4th pill. And you're taking those 5 and you're so loyal. Why? Because it has credibility. While we had no side effect, but you just didn't get the result that fast, and then you quit, even though it could have solved everything for you. And at the fraction of the cost, you could have been healthy without any side effects. And the only way to make it into where it has credibility is to go the test-based route. So yes, clinical study, all of that is good, but the standard of clinical studies for nutrition, when you are not allowed to talk about diseases, is completely crazy compared to the drug. So we can't ever win in that area because we operate inside of one box and the other ones operate inside of a completely different box. So it's not possible to win. But in personalized nutrition, where everyone get their personal test and they see, well, I lack vitamin D3. Well, we can fix that for you and we can prove it to you. Well, I lack omega-3. Well, we can fix that for you. Well, I'm low in these hormones. Well, we can fix that for you. And when you go into that, then we'll get the credibility. That will take our nutritional profession from about 200 billion to over $1 trillion, I believe, in the next 15 to 20 years. The leader of this will be a mega company, and we hope that to be Zinzino.
Yes, absolutely. I love the idea of using criticism as a gauge or a litmus test for innovation and kind of to show that you are on the right path. And I also loved the idea you said that they start out criticizing and then questioning and then copying. Again, another great sign that you're on the right path of innovation and success. This success led you to expand the company internationally, to make its way out of Northern Europe and Scandinavia to other markets around the world, including North America. And I'm curious, a lot of our listeners here are here in the North American market. As you approach North America, how do you see it different from the other Northern European markets?
So I think every market is different and every market is the same. And that's an oxymoron because how are they different? Well, culturally, everything is different. I love this story of IKEA. IKEA is a Swedish company, flat pack furniture. It started in 1943, and during the Second World War, Sweden was neutral. And then it became first international expansion in 1980, and then it came to the Americas in the late 1990s or beginning of 2000s. And the author of a book, he writes the story about how all of a sudden in Texas, they are selling so much glasses that they have a production problem to deliver enough glasses to the American warehouse. And then the story develops into like they're trying to find out why they send people from Sweden over to America because they don't understand why they're selling out those glasses all the time. So they're like what's going on? Because the sales in Norway would be like, okay, 5 or 6 units a day. Sales in Sweden in a store would be maybe 5 or 6. But in Texas, it was like hundreds and thousands of units a day of that product. Well, what they called a glass in Texas happened to be a crystal vase in Norway. So the size of a soft drink in America happened to fit perfectly into the crystal vase, which we have flowers in Norway because there is a cultural difference. So when you have a cup holder for your video room or your TV room in America, that cup holder is just happened to be a lot larger than a cup holder is in Sweden or in Norway. So there is a difference in culture, but at the same time, it's equal because also in Europe, you want to have a drink when you watch a movie. It's just the size of the drink that is different. So you got to adjust to the size, you got to adjust to the language, but you know that your product will be just as good as it gets popularized because the need for health is equal globally. It's just how do they want the message delivered?
Yeah, amazing insights. You also ended up acquiring some of the assets of a company in North America. And I'm curious if there were any learnings from that acquisition.
There is tons of learnings from all the different acquisitions. I think it's gone really well. We brought the sales up over 50% since the acquisition. And that's pretty incredible. And if we can do that every time we do an acquisition in the first couple of months, bring the sales up 50%, that's amazing. With some really talented people in the field, some talented people at the corporate, and they needed a break, they needed help. We wanted to acquire companies. We are acquiring quite a bit of companies. We acquired one more company after that. We acquired, I think we're up to 6 companies now in the last 2 years. So it's going very fast. We have a deck of papers here with probably another 5 or 6 that is things that we are discussing actively as we're speaking. The reason for this is twofold. One is that there is a window of opportunity as a company. When you're about 100 million US to about $1 billion US, it makes sense to acquire companies because you can, at 100 million, you can buy the ones that are doing 4 to 10 million, and you can pretty easily integrate them. At 200 million, you can buy 20 to 30, and you can easily integrate them. At 500 million, you can buy 50 to 100, and you can easily integrate it. At $1 billion, there isn't many 100 to 200 million companies to buy. So your window of growing through acquisition kind of get closed around $1 billion in size. So the acquisition window for us is right now. Then we believe that we're sitting up on a global megatrend. So we believe that test-based nutrition is going to be as common as nutrition, meaning that about 50% of the population today in the US is using a nutritional supplement, not daily, but at least in a survey, they would say, yeah, I've taken vitamin C, or I've taken vitamin D, or I bought a nutritional supplement. And we think that 50% of the population in the future will get tested, not every day, but maybe once a year, maybe every second year. And globally, we think that the entire guest-based nutritional profession is going to be overtaken by the test-based. That is happening in the next 25 years. So we need to expand and get established in 180 countries. So by the time it goes from innovation stage to growth stage, we're established everywhere, because then we can ride that wave as the market leader. And that's why we're acquiring strategically in regions. We're acquiring for size in countries like America, because we need to be not only have our company there, but we need to have a big enough company to be able to handle big movements in the marketplace. And then we're also acquiring strategically when it looks to different potential products, technologies, patents. And then in addition to that, we do organic growth, which is when people ask me, so how much of your 58% is from acquisition and how much is from organic growth? And we count acquisition volume for the first 12 months. And then after that, we count it as organic. And we're right now without acquisition of, or the two last acquisitions, we would still have an organic growth of about 45% for April. So
that's
acquisition
incredible.
Does matter, but it's not what drives Zinzino.
Yeah, oh, that's incredible and amazing. You're definitely leading the way on this approach with acquisitions, and we are starting to see more and more of this happening throughout the channel: acquisitions, mergers. I'm curious, what have been some of the success factors for Zinzino in merging cultures and approaches as it relates to the sales force in the field?
So compromises is important, but there are some things you cannot compromise on. If you read books about mergers and acquisitions, you learn that 90% of it goes wrong. And what goes wrong is that you can never land on that it's one culture. If one company joins another company, if it's a merger or an acquisition, doesn't matter. If that ends up being two cultures, you don't get synergy, you get the opposite of synergy. So 1 + 1 = 1.8. Ideally, you want 1 + 1 to equal 11. That means that you should have an enormous synergy out of it. And that's when you have to kind of like, you got to know what you want, okay? So you got to do enough compromise in the beginning where people feel that their identity is not forgotten. Because if people feel their identity is forgotten, they go sour and they don't go to work. But then you can't compromise on some things. And I tell this silly story about the French movies and the Hollywood movies. So what's the difference between a French movie and a Hollywood movie? And I don't know if you've seen one, but when you look through a French movie, you're sitting for 2 hours trying to figure out who the hero is. And at the end of the movie, maybe you figured it out, maybe you didn't, you don't know sometimes, and you have like this twisted mind at the end of the movie. And some people love that experience. In a Hollywood movie, you will see who the hero is very quickly, and then the hero goes on a journey, and then it's about to not be the hero, and then it becomes the hero again, and you get your pay release, and you're happy, and you knew all the time that your hero was going to win. There can only be one hero product. So it's important to have your hero. Otherwise, you're going to be in a big trouble and in a big mess. So we're clear on that with the companies we acquire, that the hero product is the hero product. That doesn't change. However, a hero needs supporting actors. In the movie, to make a hero, if you look at Hollywood, when they're going to make a new hero, it's a lot of superstars coming in to secondary roles. And then there is somebody you've never seen before in the main role. And then by the end of the movie, a new star is born. So when we acquire a company, we position their products very well so that they support the hero in the story, so that they feel their identity is there, but they support the hero story that we already have. This goes also in corporate. This goes also in field. that you have to be clear on what's the expectation and what's the structure, and that there is a meritocracy. So just because you used to be over here, no, you got to fight for your right over here. It's a meritocracy, and we hope that you will be the main leader in Zinzino as you come over, but we can't just have it because you used to be it.
Really important insights. There's a lot of strategy in what you just said. I'm going to go back and listen to that. I hope we all do, especially those last few minutes. And I think it's a really kind of noble approach to leave some room for a little bit of the identity, of that company, of that product line, but then still also focusing and centering and anchoring on that hero, so that everybody is still kind of marching to the same drum. I think that is really fascinating. I appreciate those insights. So as you look back, over the last many years there at Zinzino and the incredible success, what do you feel have been maybe the top 3 most important contributing factors to that success?
Long-term vision. I think that's critical. If you don't know where you're going, you're not going to end up where you're going. You're going to end up somewhere. But the vision aspect of it is really important. When people come on a fly-in with acquisitions and so on, and I always start talking about that the vision of the company shouldn't be the dream board of the owners. It needs to be a true vision. We believe that we're creating a movement that is much bigger than Zinzino. So when Steve Jobs said, "Today I put 1,000 songs in your pocket, an internet device, and you can make phone calls with it," and he created the smartphone is something much bigger than Apple. Apple have their iPhone, but the smartphone is something bigger. We're creating a movement where we go from guest-based to test-based nutrition. That's going to save the human health of the planet. That's going to eventually take 2% out of the health budget of every single nation and put back into the budget, because the healthcare cost is going to go down when people get right nutrition. So we're creating a movement. And that's the vision that we have. Bring the planet back into balance, and we'll get 100 million customers and become the most influential preventative health company in the world. Now, to take a second point to after the vision is to be curious. So just because you think that you got something really, really right, a lot of people stop being curious. And when you stop being curious, you maybe miss something else that could have supported that hero so well on that journey. You stop listening to the input that could have improved your marketing of that hero on that journey. So you got to keep on being curious. So vision, stay curious, because when you stay curious, there is 2 factors that are so critical. And that is that you continuously improve. So you improve everything. You improve the company, you improve yourself, you improve the product, you improve everything. I say that if we cannot make this product better every 5 years, we should consider everyone's position that is working with products. Science is moving forwards. We should be able to make the product better. But people typically in network marketing promise, we will never change the product. We will never change the compensation plan. And I said, no, we actually say inspire change in life. I can promise you, if you join Zinzino, we will always look to improve the product. That's a change. We will always look to improve the comp plan. That's a change. Change is the only constant. And so continuous improvement, and then every 5 to 10 years, a major innovation. And that comes out of the curiosity. Then when that's said, you got to have a corporate culture where it's move up or move out. Too many is trying to win with the wrong team. Let's say that we went into sports. Now, everyone has an opinion on sports. That's why I love it as an example. And 2 of us bought a soccer club. let's say we bought one in America. So they don't have a tendency to win that much against the European teams, but we really wanted to win. But instead of saying that, hey, we're going to go out and draft the best players every year, we say, no, 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 we're just going to keep the same players. What would you give the chances of us to ever become the best team in the world? Zero. So in the corporate culture, you have to be open with everyone that it's move up, so you get better every year, or you move out. Move out doesn't always mean that you work for somebody else, but it means that you move in a different position in the company where you don't block the company's growth. Then when it comes to the field leadership, it has to be driven by a culture where the field is one with the company. The field can't be fighting the corporate all the time, can't be playing the blame game, and the corporate can't be playing the blame game with the field. It has to be a culture where everyone says, no, I'm going to grow personally and I'm going to grow professionally. Just because you're a field leader, that's not an excuse not to learn the products. That's not an excuse not to know the comp plan. No, you grow personally and professionally every year. That's a part of what we do. And then eventually, I think that you need to, that was 4 points. You probably didn't ask for 4 points. It was
Four's great. I'll take all the insights I can get.
Give a fifth point. I was kind of like went blank on top of my head, but I think it is put in the hours. It is not, it's not gonna happen by itself. You got to put in the hours. I lead with taillights is one of the philosophies that we have in the field, that you're showing that you're willing to go and do it if you keep on doing that. And I'll add one more to it, and that is that in anything that you do, drafting new players in sports, recruiting people in business, that's how you build a large company. You have to always be there to recruit new players in, because without new players, you will lose out on the next generation, you know. I said this many years ago, and I'm maybe babbling too much now, but I said my dream is to make network marketing known and recognized, where when people come out of the best business schools, instead of wanting to go and work for a Merrill Lynch because they think that they're going to get to a 2 million or 3 million a year salary, they want to join in the field with our company, because there they know that they can make 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, and it's going to be a better life, so that we get the brightest 22, 23-year-olds out of school that this is what they want to do. And that's drafting new people, that's building an attraction and always recruiting. And you recruit in all ages, but you need to, every 10 years, everyone that you already have is going to be 10 years older. So unless you're recruiting new young talent, you're eventually going to die out on your own.
That's a great list. So I'm going to go back through this list really quick for myself. So those 5 elements that you gave: vision, a continued curiosity, corporate culture, putting in the hours, and then continuing to recruit new players. I think that's a great list and template for others to follow. I'm curious what advice you would give to other direct selling companies about becoming even more customer focused.
There is no other option. From a legal perspective, what's happening in AI. So the Silicon Valley consensus right now is saying that within 18 months, every person will have an AI in their phone that is smarter than any given person at any area. Meaning that the AI on people's phone 18 months from now is going to know more about Zinzino than I do. Then they say 6 years from now, the AI is going to be so smart that it's a better answer than everyone working together in Zinzino could give about Zinzino, the AI is going to give. So how much time will it take the FTC to investigate your company? 1 second, 2 seconds? Maybe. It's pretty quick, the AI. Already, 18 months from now, they're going to type in, do X have customers? 2 seconds later, the AI is going to give a better answer than the CEO of the company can give. So there is no other option. The law is already there. Every company that comes in front of the FTC or any other government around the world without a customer quote, that is 80–90% of the volume from customers that doesn't have a field position, will be effectively shut down. It's just how it is. So there is no choice. I don't know if that was the most friendly answer, but it's the most truthful answer I could give.
No, it's very timely. I agree. I think it should be one of the main focuses for us right now, and it does create such a stable business for all of us. So I agree. I think there is no other option. I know that you've been a big champion of direct selling, but also of innovating and looking at things from a different perspective. So as you look out over the next 3 to 5 years, in order for direct selling companies to win going forward, what do we need to be doing more of, and what do we need to be doing less of?
Yeah, and that's the positive side of AI. So I absolutely love what's happening. I think more wealth is going to be created in the next 30 years, maybe even in the next 15 years than since the earth crust cooled, because everything is going so much faster. So now imagine in a world where everything is becoming so digital. Everything that we do is basically taking out the human factor. Now, who will win in that world? Well, there is going to be a lot of tech companies that is going to do amazing things. I just invested in a company with two 26-year-old tech geniuses in Norway. They solved something in their last company and became multi-millionaires at the age of 26. And then they wanted to build something new, and they wanted my seniority. I'm turning 50 this year into that, so I'm grateful for that. But what they're creating is so brilliant. And literally one of the things that will take them maybe 6 months to put together will replace maybe half of the accounting employees in Norway within a year or 2 or 3. So everything is becoming digital. You're not going to have an accountant in the future. You're not going to go and shop the way we shop. When you come to McDonald's, there isn't going to be anybody flipping burgers if you go to McDonald's. That's going to be fully automated. Online shopping is going to be so smooth, so fast, is going to be so automated that you're going to get the AI assistant, and all of those things will just become so good. So when everything is automated and the human social contact is even lower than what it is today, I think that out of that, the network marketing companies that is providing social contact, social education, and I say that those that will do the best will be also the ones that can emotionally handle social contacts, which will be an even bigger question in the future than what it is today. And I give the example that it will be so popular in the end to finally get to buy from a human again, that when they come to the home party, they will be bringing popcorn to eat as they are then shopping to the drop in the home party. So I believe that we will be the ones that, and I gave that example when I spoke in Dallas, that we're bringing first class back into the consumer experience. When everyone else is just making the same seat where everything fits and everything is cheap and everything is fast and everything is smooth, we're going to bring out, no, you're a human. I'm going to listen to what you have to say. I'm going to listen to your experience. And we become the first class of selling. And that will take network marketing from about a $200–300 billion industry to a $1 trillion industry, because people would want more social contact, and they will be willing to pay a much higher premium in the future than what they pay today. So other things where social contact will be more valuable, going to a sports game. Look at the increase in ticket prices for sports games, for clubs where people are going to belong. They know who they're meeting at the club. So social contact is going up in value. Network marketing originally was about social contact. If you bring that back, you will thrive, you will grow.
I think that is a beautiful idea to end on. That relational, personalized human touch is really our superpower. And we just need to carry it into this new era and to new generations.
And plus one more thing, tens of millions of jobs are going to be replaced. So recruiting people is also going to be very, very easy because there will be a pool of talent that needs something new to do that we've never had before. And this time, it's not only coming from the blue collar works. This time it's coming from all of different groups because AI is an intelligence. I had this discussion with a pilot. He was flying to do simulator training in Zurich, and I was flying from Vienna to Zurich that evening. And I asked him, so when do you think that the AI will fly the plane? And he said, no, I never think that that will happen. And then I said, because when they're skeptical, you got to kind of row with them. You can't go against them. I said, so how long do you think it will be before the plane has an AI assistant pilot? And he says, well, I think that'll be pretty quickly. I think we'll get that, like the autopilot goes from just being a system to actually being an intelligence that makes sense because it can learn. And then if the autopilot is now studying every move and it's like 10 times more intelligent than you, how long do you think it's going to take before it knows everything that you know? And it's read through all your simulator training, and it's gone through all the simulator training of every other pilot in the world, and it's studied every other pilot in the world. How much more qualified do you think that autopilot is going to be? And then looks back at me and says, wow, never thought about that. And intelligence is different. It actually can replace a pilot because it's safer. So it's jobs that we never thought could be replaced is going to be replaced. So being able to recruit is going to be very, very easy in the future if you can bring a quality and a sensible message in what you do with a product that people really do need.
I love that. The need is great and the opportunity is equally as great. And I think for us in direct selling, we just need to command the space that we occupy in this new relational, personalized world. Ørjan, thank you so much. Please give our best to your co-founder and wife and everybody back there at Zinzino's headquarters. And thank you for being such a great example for all of us and for sharing all these incredible insights.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for tuning in. Please take a moment to subscribe and give a 5-star rating and review to help Direct Approach continue to provide more candid insights and interviews for direct selling corporate executives. And don't forget to register for our upcoming Direct Selling University in Amsterdam at dsnevents.com. Secure your spot now. Thank you for listening and supporting DSN and the Direct Approach podcast.